Mr. Speaker, I rise today to address the issue of Chinese currency manipulation. In Northwest Indiana, the steel industry provides middle-class jobs and economic security. It supplies the products with which a strong economy can be built and a powerful national defense maintained. China understands the value of steel and a strong manufacturing base and has aggressively acted to support and subsidize its domestic industries. For example, China has acted contrary to international trading standards in order to help their domestic manufacturers by routinely manipulating its currency in order to keep prices low on its finished products. As an effect, China's steel production has more than doubled since 2003, while U.S. production has dropped by nearly 40%. We have also lost a third of our manufacturing jobs as China's manufacturing sector continues to grow, nourished by that country's blatant disregard of international law and the abusive consequences visited on other nations and people, most importantly, those who live and want to work in the United States of America. For example, it is estimated that China has devalued its currency anywhere between 12 and 50%, giving its own exports a government subsidy and, in effect, taxing American-made imports. This policy has cost the U.S. upwards of 2.5 million manufacturing jobs over the last decade and a staggering annual trade deficit of as much as $273 billion. The Chinese have dialogued and dialogued and dialogued for years about allowing their currency to appreciate, but have continued the practice of devaluing it. Our nation is facing a jobs crisis, and we can no longer afford to stand for this destructive policy. H.R. 639, the Currency Reform for Fair Trade Act, would address the issue of this manipulation by recognizing in law what we already know, that currency misalignment is an export subsidy. The measure would take common sense steps to ensure our Treasury Department appropriately identifies countries that engage in this unfair policy and allow the United States to place countervailing duties on imports from offending nations. This act has 230 co-sponsors, more than enough to pass the House. In fact, just over a year ago, drawing on support from American labor and manufacturing, the House supported a similar bill. On September 23, 2010, the House approved the Currency Reform for Fair Trade Act by an overwhelming bipartisan vote of 348 to 79. Unfortunately, the Senate failed to act. More than 260 of the members who voted in favor of that measure remain in the House. In this Congress, in October, the other body did pass a similar measure by a bipartisan vote of 63 to 35. It is time for the House to pass this bill. Those who oppose efforts to punish China for its unfair trade policies insist this measure would start a so-called trade war. We are in a war for jobs, and we are losing. China continues to fight to win jobs, while America's government dawdles. This cannot continue. According to a report by the Economic Policy Institute titled Unfair China Trade Costs Local Jobs, thanks to our trade imbalance with China, 2.4 million jobs were lost in the United States between 2001 and 2008. Unfortunately, currency manipulation is far from the only trade-disrupting policy practiced by China. This summer, the New American Foundation, led by Leo Gerard of the United Steelworkers and Leo Hendry of New America, published a report. The report they released further confirms the myriad of activities that China engaged in that undermines our jobs. China employs a complex and far-reaching set of industrial and mercantile policies. Environmental and labor rules that we take for granted are rare to non-existent in China. China disregards intellectual property protections such as trademarks, copyrights, and patents, and then steals technology from us and other countries around the world at an annual cost of hundreds of billions of dollars. It does this in part by shamelessly forcing foreign companies to divulge intellectual property as a price for market access. Further, China uses state secret laws to protect commercial interests and is pursuing a policy of disingenuous innovation, whereby it manufactures and maneuvers to increase the domestic production of high-value added goods. The House must pass and act on the Chinese currency manipulation bill.